Yo guys, Superior David here. Onyxia's Lair is finally launched, and that means it's time for me to give you what I think are the top 5 best decks of the mini set so far. Just so you don't have to be that person playing, no new card Face Hunter on ladder. And yes, I know you're out there. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy these decks that I'm gonna be talking about here. These are sort of just based on my opinions and what I've been seeing a lot on ladder, and also what I've been playing a lot of. So take that as you will. And of course, because the cards just released, and there's gonna be a lot of stuff changing over the next couple weeks, please craft any of this stuff at your own risk. What's good today could be out of date by next week, even by tomorrow. So just keep all this in mind. And real fast, if you like these types of videos, make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel just so you could keep up with all the cool stuff I'm putting out. It also just really helps me out. So I guess with all that out of the way, let's get into these decks. First up, we got to talk about the big head honcho deck that's sort of dictating the meta right now, and that is Kazakusan Druid. Now, I feel like up into the launch of the mini set, a lot of people were sort of just dumping on Kazakusan, and I felt like it was gonna be a pretty good card, but it honestly even surpassed my expectations, because Kazakusan is just certified good, especially in the Druid deck, because Druid has a lot of mana ramp with the Overgrowth and the Guff, and then even some fast mana with the Lightning Bloom, so you can get Kazakusan down very early in the game, and these treasures can just be so overwhelming to deal with. And I don't want to go too into the treasures here, but if you want to see a video on what I think the best treasures to pick off Kazakusan are, let me know down in the comments. I guess let's get back to the deck now. So yeah, Kazakusan is good, and you really want to get him down as soon as possible. But the reason why I like this list in particular, which I got from Zeddy, by the way, I really like this one because it has the Glowfly Swarm. And I know some lists are running the Glowfly Swarm, some aren't, but I think with Glowfly Swarm, it's a card that I feel like if you are a ramp druid, you really want to be running it if other sort of ramp druids are, because I feel like the best way to deal with Glowfly Swarm for a druid is to just have a Glowfly Swarm of your own. And then of course, I feel like it's just good because, we run Arbor Up in this deck. So there's always just the classic play Glowfly Swarm on 5 into Arbor Up on 6 to basically just win the game. And then I guess another reason why I really like this deck is because it has the scale of Onyxia, one of the new cards besides Kazakusan from the mini set. And it sort of reminds me of the OG Garden Animals, in that it's a 7 mana card that's really powerful, that can generate a lot of tempo. And because it's at 7 mana, you can play Overgrowth on curve, which means the following turn you'll have 7 mana available. So that means you can curve right into scale of Onyxia, and I feel like that's really powerful. And I think real fast, one thing I forgot to mention is you can really get some extra value out of the treasures from Kazakusan with the Solar Eclipse and the Moonlit Guidance. And I feel like that's really what makes Kazakusan Druid so threatening, because you could get potentially 3 procs of a certain treasure with these cards, and that is just insane. So I guess all that being said, is this deck unbeatable? No, I feel like it's very susceptible to aggro, and I could definitely see some aggro decks coming back to sort of keep this deck in check. But I think it's also definitely a very fun deck. So if you have the cards, I definitely recommend checking it out. And I guess with that, let's move on to our next deck. Keeping with the theme of Kazakusan here, the next deck we're gonna be talking about is Kazakusan Priest, and I got this list from Theo, and it sort of functions in a similar fashion to the Kazakusan Druid, in that you basically, you got the Kazakusan, you want to play him and get those treasures in your deck, but you don't want to play him on turn 8 for 8 mana. You want to use the mana cheat at Priest's disposal, mainly the Insight, but also the Draconic Studies to get down this Kazakusan early, just so you could really overwhelm your opponent with these treasures, because they are busted. And what I like about this version of Kazakusan Priest in general is that it cuts a lot of the dragons that I feel just are not very good. And we really only run the good dragons, which are Kazakusan, and then as well as the Light Maw Nether Drakes. And wow, I thought it would be hard to get both a Holy and Shadow Spell in my hand, but it's actually very easy. And I feel like these Light Maw Nether Drakes just put in work, especially against anyone who's trying to play Beast Druid or Shadow Priest right now. The Light Maw Nether Drakes really carry those matchups, and I feel like it sort of gives this deck the edge against the Kazakusan Druid in that regard, if there's a lot of aggro decks on ladder. But I feel like overall this one might struggle against the Kazakusan Druid a bit, because you don't have the ability to recur those spells like the Kazakusan Druid. But I think the Kazakusan Priest is going to have a better aggro matchup. So if you're running into a lot of aggro decks and you want to play Kazakusan, this is the deck you want to go to here. So now moving right along to our first non-Kazakusan deck over here, we have Quest Rogue. And this is my take on Quest Rogue that was inspired by Jay Alexander's version of the archetype. And you'll see a lot of familiar faces in this deck, but you'll also see, you look at our expensive cards here, we are not running the Scabs hero card. And, I saw Jay Alexander doing this. I was like, that's sort of interesting. And, when I thought about it more, it feels like Scabs at 8 mana is actually too slow for the current meta. So that's why I'm not running the Scabs, but I am running this Scabs Cutter Butter, which I feel like has actually gotten a lot better, because, his effect is combo with the next 2 cards you play this turn cost 3 less. And I feel like that's become a lot better because the new SI7 Smuggler, which is a 3 mana SI7 card. And I feel like with more 3 mana SI7 cards, it becomes more worth it to run Scab's Cutter Butter because you could like, play like, you could play the coin to get the Scab's combo proc, or you could play like Foxy Fraud to trigger the Scab's Cutter Butter. And then you could potentially play two of these 3-mana SI7 cards, and that's pretty good. But overall, I guess like the only new card is the SI7 Smuggler, so I guess I'll focus more on that. And I think it's actually really good. There is the one caveat that it is bugged at the moment, and they're not going to fix it until after the Masters Tour. SI7 Smuggler, for its effect, currently it counts itself, unlike the SI7 Informant over here, which does not count itself. So you have the chance to just sort of get out like a bigger minion earlier. And I found this card to be like usually like a total scam card. Like you could play like early against like aggro decks if you want that extra body to get like, like a 1, 2, or 3 drop. But it definitely gets a lot better like in the 8 drop slot, because 8 drops are typically pretty good in Hearthstone. And then the 10 drops are pretty good as well. But I think overall, this deck has been like my best performing deck, and it's been absolutely slapping for me on ladder. So if you want to just like destroy decks, get those wins at the moment, I highly recommend Quest Rogue. So I guess the theme of this video is just doing similar decks in pairs, because the next deck we're going to be talking about here is Quest Hunter, and this is Sheik the Seventh's Quest Hunter list. And you'll see it here, and it's pretty standard as far as like what you'd expect from like a Quest Hunter these days. But it has 2 new cards that I think make it a lot better, with the first being the Dragonbane Shot, and this is 2 mana, deal 2 damage, honorable kill, add a Dragonbane Shot to your hand. And so this makes completing your quest against like any sort of board-based deck just so much easier, because you're able to just get more spells in your hands if you could like trigger that honorable kill effect here. And it's also really good like once you complete the quest and you get that 0 mana hero power, because you can get another spell to just keep refreshing your hero power, and it does go face, so you could also use it for burst. So I think this Dragonbane Shot's really good. Then we also have the other new card, the Furious Howl, which is 2 mana, draw a card, repeat until you have at least 3 cards. So I really like the Furious Howl in this deck because it is a spell, which means it's going to refresh your hero power once you complete your quest. But then on top of that, it's card draw, which Hunter is always loving card draw, and it's actually relatively cheap. It's a potentially 2 mana, draw 3. And I guess one last thing that I also like about this deck, it's the Explosive Trap. I know sometimes Explosive Trap will like phase in and out of Quest Hunter based on the meta, but I think it's actually really good right now because of all those Kazakusan Druids that are running the Glowfly Swarm. So you have like a way to deal with Glowfly Swarm. There are also a lot of board-based decks, so all the removal at the Quest Hunter's disposal just does very well right now in this meta. So if you want to absolutely destroy those people who are playing, no new cards Face Hunter, no new cards Beast Druid, while also having a chance against like all those Kazakusan decks, I feel like Quest Hunter is your deck to be trying on ladder. And now moving on to our final deck of the video, we have Tickatus Warlock, which I feel like is a very interesting deck in the meta at the moment, because it's sort of presenting itself as the counter to all these Kazakusan decks, because we run cards that can just destroy their deck, like Altar of Fire and Tickatus. And the idea is, you play these cards after your opponent plays their Kazakusan and replaces their whole 30 card deck or whatever with 10 treasures that are really good, but because their deck's only 10 cards, you could basically just burn through it again with Tickatus or Altar of Fire. And then you just absolutely destroy them with Curse of Agony, which I found to be an actually like really good card. I encountered like a Poison Rogue on ladder that was just, cycling through their deck thinking they're all cool, and then I go Curse of Agony, and then they just sort of die to all this damage, and it's hysterical. But anyways, the big question I got on stream with this deck is, why don't we run the Tamsin Roam, the little 3 mana minion Tamsin that allows you to duplicate your shadow spells? Well, that's because we run the Dark Portal, which I feel like is very important for this deck to work, because the only minions we run in this deck are the Tickatus and the Mutinous. So basically, the Dark Portal, you play it, and it gives you a minion that could basically just sort of screw over your opponent. You ideally want to get the Tickatus, though, because, Tickatus will become super cheap, you can corrupt it super easily, and then you could play Philosophy to get multiple, like, cheap Tickatuses or Tickatai. And I say, like, against, like, normal decks, you could just, like, sort of play these out in the mid-game to sort of just destroy their deck and tempo out these 8/8s. But I'd say against, again, these Kazakusan decks, I usually try to save, like, my card burning effects until after they play their Kazakusan to just get rid of those treasures, which could absolutely screw you over. And I guess just for, like, final thoughts on this deck, I think the archetype as a whole, I could see the potential here, because, being able to burn your opponent's deck, especially with all these Kazakusan decks in the meta, it's really good. And I found the Curse of Agony to actually be like a decent win condition. But I think right now we're still just trying to figure out the best way to build this deck. So I think this is a deck that's going to be changing up a lot over the next like several weeks, but I think it will eventually get there. So definitely keep this one on your radar. And so there you have it, folks. These are what I think are the best decks in the meta at the moment. I guess we'll see over the next like couple weeks whether all this remains to be true. But I for one am very excited to just dig into Onyxia's Lair some more. I've really been enjoying the mini set, and I hope you've been enjoying it too. Let me know down in the comments if you have been. And I guess also let me know down in the comments what you've been jamming. Would love to hear like what you guys have been playing, and especially like what decks you want to see guides on. So again, let me know that down in the comments. And I guess in the meantime, stay superior, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.